So the Combahee River Collective, which I think is from the late 70s, was, I think, the first time that we have the term identity politics used in the way that we mean today, which is a political division of the country into categories. The BLM architects, way before Black Lives Matter was even a thing, was even invented, they had been reared in these ideas spawned by the Combahee River Collective and definitely by the critical race theorists about systemic racism, systemic oppression, and so on. The carceral state, the fact that they have to get rid of not just of the prison system, but also of the system of justice as we know it in prisons, in jails, in the jail system. We have to stop building them and get rid of them and go on to something called restorative justice, which is basically putting the victim and the criminal on the same plane and saying an event has happened, let them work out, which is really ridiculous. So Alicia Garza, Patrice Colores, and Paul Tometi, but definitely mostly the first two, Alicia Garza and Patrice Colores, were two African-American women who went through this socialization indoctrination early on, even in high school, definitely in college. They were recruited, and I use the word of one of the recruiters, Eric Mann, who's a former member of the Weather Underground, a man that's a terrorist organization, who spent some time in prison for assault and battery in the 80s. In 89, actually, he creates a labor community strategy center in Los Angeles. And I believe it was around the year 2000 that he writes in a book, the Labor Community Strategy Center recruits a young woman, a very intelligent young woman by the name of Patrice Colores, who's 17. And she has said subsequently in an interview, this video of it, that she was just an angry woman. She was just really angry. And because of her conditions in life, and the Labor Community Strategy Center taught her about Marx, taught her about Mao, taught her about Lenin, and taught her how to organize in the way that Alinsky kind of created for us Americans, and that it gave her a purpose, but it really gave her it channeled her into revolution, and she has said this. And Alicia Garza, another young woman who's going to create BLM in 2013, gets recruited, I believe, in 2004, 2005, by the School of Unity and Liberation, which is founded by Harmony Goldberg, who is a Gramscian, who is a cultural anthropologist. I believe she has a PhD in cultural anthropology, who's a very good expert on Gramsci, who writes about Gramsci's war of positions and war of maneuvers, about the hegemonic narrative, about the need to indoctrinate, the need to infiltrate the institutions of society. She writes about this. It's one of the subjects of her study. She recruits Alicia Garza into the School of Unity and Liberation. And then Alicia Garza, I believe, was one of the two, say that they're politicized and socialized, but especially by the World Social Forum, which was created by world communists, especially Latin American communists, but also European communists, as a counterweight to the World Economic Forum in Davos. They created the World Social Forum in Porto Alegre, Brazil, in 2001, and they began to have meetings, world meetings, and it was at the meeting in 2006 in Caracas that Hugo Chavez, the communist dictator of Venezuela, addresses a huge crowd. And Cindy Sheehan was there. If you remember her from Bush, the Bush era, and the Cuban leaders were there, and communist leaders from across the hemisphere are there. And he says, Hugo Chavez says, we need to the World Social Forum. We need the United States. We need an American presence. He begins to shout, "Viva los Estados Unidos! Long live the United States!" And people are like in this anti-American setting. And he says, the American giant's going to wake up. We need to take the fight inside the United States. And lo and behold, what happens in 2007? The World Social Forum creates a U.S. Social Forum. And Alicia Garza is on the organizing committee of the World Social Forum. And it says this writes itself. And the World Social Forum, that meeting in Atlanta in 2007, it's at that meeting that they create the National Domestic Workers Alliance. Why the National Domestic Workers Alliance? Because domestic workers tend to be women, immigrant women of the new non-white categories. and they want to organize them as agents of change, as revolutionary agents. And I think, as Alicia Garza says, that I become politicized within this context of the of the U.S. Social Forum. And what is interesting is, so they already hard-boiled Marxists who are waiting in the wings.
That's as hard-boiled as you can get. Alicia, I don't think people really understand that it really is a conspiracy. I mean, that clearly is. They're at every step they're doing something to achieve a short-term goal of revolution.
And it gets even better. It gets even better. I have video of Alicia Garza in 2010 speaking in Oakland, saying, we created the World Social Forum because we were told by Latin American leaders, by third world leaders, you got to go home to the U.S. and take the U.S. boot off our neck. Take the U.S. boot off our neck. She says this in 2010. This is a very clear continuum. 2013, George Zimmerman is acquitted of murdering Trayvon Martin. And they begin to, Alicia Garza writes a Facebook posting saying Black Lives Matter. Patrice Colores notices it, puts a hashtag in front, creates a social media thing. And Opal Tometi, the third of the leaders, who also attends all these world meetings, says we need to create a web space. And that's how the web page for Black Lives Matter is created and is shared by all of that bevy of networks that they're a part of international and domestic Marxist networks. And the thing takes off. But it really gels in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014 after the killing of Michael Brown. And we know now that this idea of hands up, don't shoot was just a fiction. All these things are fiction, but you have a lot of riots in 2014 in Ferguson, Missouri. The FBI is prevented from really stopping any conspiracy against the United States. Alicia Garza is sent to Ferguson to organize Marxists. By whom? By the National Domestic Workers Alliance. They're the ones who paid her way to Ferguson in 2014, created, just let me jog your memory, in Atlanta in 2007 at the U.S. Social Forum. It's not a conspiracy, but it is.
It's no different than the growth of the Bolshevik Party over a 25-year period. No different whatsoever.
And good Americans don't know anything about this.
I mean, it's as conspiratorial as you can get. Now, like the Bolsheviks, they had a platform that I can't remember what it was something like peace, land, and ownership to the Soviets or something.
All power to the Soviets.